On Thanksgiving Eve, November 24, 1971, a man calling himself Dan Cooper, at the time proof of identity wasn't required by airlines, paid $18.52 in cash for a one-way ticket from Portland to Seattle on Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305. Eyewitnesses described Cooper as a white male in his mid-40s, with dark hair and brown eyes, wearing a black or brown business suit, a white shirt, a thin black tie, a black raincoat, and brown shoes. Soon after takeoff, Cooper handed a note to a flight attendant, who was sitting in the jump seat at the rear of the airplane directly behind Cooper. Assuming the note was a lonely businessman's telephone number, the flight attendant dropped the note unopened into her purse. Cooper then leaned toward her and whispered,
"Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb."
The flight attendant opened the note. In neat, all-capital letters printed with a felt-tip pen, Cooper had written,
"Miss, I have a bomb in my briefcase and want you to sit by me."
Then she sat down as he requested, and asked quietly to see the bomb. He opened his briefcase, and she saw 2 rows of 4 red cylinders, which she assumed were dynamite. Attached to the cylinders were a wire and a large, cylindrical battery, which resembled a bomb. Cooper demanded $200,000 in a knapsack by 5 p.m. He wants 2 front parachutes, 2 back parachutes. He wants the money in negotiable American currency. By requesting 2 sets of parachutes, Cooper implied that he planned to take a hostage with him, thereby discouraging authorities from supplying non-functional equipment. When the first flight attendant left to talk to the captain, other flight attendants sat next to Cooper to act as a liaison between him and the flight crew in the cockpit. He then made additional demands. Upon landing in Seattle, the fuel trucks must meet the plane and all passengers must remain seated while she brought the money aboard. He said he would release the passengers after he had the money. The last items brought aboard would be the 4 parachutes. Getting the money and parachutes ready took a few hours, so the flight circled in the air. After making it to Seattle, 36 passengers and 2 crew members disembarked in exchange for the ransom. The plane, staffed by 4 remaining crew members, 2 pilots, a flight engineer, and a flight attendant, then took off for Mexico City. Cooper demanded the jet fly lower than 10,000 feet, at a speed under 200 knots. While the crew was in the cockpit, Cooper lowered the stairs at the back of the plane and jumped out shortly after 8 p.m. The jet continued to Reno, Nevada. As news of the hijacking spread, a reporting mistake rendered the hijacker's name as D.B. Cooper instead of Dan Cooper. After the flight, sketch artist portraits of the hijacker were created. The FBI described Cooper as a white male, 6 feet 1 inch tall, 170 to 175 pounds, age mid-40s, olive complexion, brown eyes, black hair, conventional cut, parted on left. FBI agents collected evidence, including the hijacker's clip-on necktie and 8 cigarette butts, though Cooper hadn't left his ransom note behind. Agents also conducted ground searches and interviews. More than 800 suspects came to the Bureau's attention over the first 5 years of the investigation. One theory of the case is that Cooper didn't survive, succumbing either to his jump or the conditions in which he landed. He left the plane during a storm, amid 200-mile-per-hour winds, and might not have been able to deploy his chute. Even if his parachute did open, it wasn't a type that could be steered. And landing in rough, wooded terrain at night is dangerous, particularly for a man wearing just a suit, loafers, and trench coat. Law enforcement were in the air following the hijacked flight but didn't see Cooper's jump. Some Cooper aficionados have speculated that instead of the flight path the FBI used in its investigation, Cooper actually left the plane while it was on what's been dubbed a western flight path, about 7 miles farther west. The manhunt therefore might have focused on the wrong area. The FBI launched what would become one of the longest and most exhaustive investigations in its history, known as NORJAC, Northwest Hijacking. Initially, the agency believed that Cooper knew both planes and the area, and it was speculated that he served in the military, possibly as a paratrooper. Later, however, it was decided that he was not an experienced skydiver because the jump was too dangerous, and he failed to notice that his reserve parachute was sewn shut for use in training. The agency reported that it looked at some 800 suspects in the first 5 years, with almost all being eliminated. Some were ruled out on the basis of DNA that was eventually recovered from the tie Cooper took off before jumping. Here are some of the suspects. Robert Rackstraw was a military veteran with parachute training who had several brushes with the law. He was dismissed as a suspect by the FBI, but in 2018, a fellow veteran said he'd decoded messages allegedly sent by Cooper that implicated Rackstraw. At times before his 2019 death, Rackstraw made cryptic comments about the case rather than denying involvement. In 1972, Richard Floyd McCoy Jr. hijacked a Boeing 727, the same type of plane Cooper targeted. After receiving his ransom, McCoy parachuted from the plane. Despite this matching MO, McCoy didn't resemble the sketches of Cooper. After escaping from prison in 1974, McCoy was killed in a shootout with police. Lynn Doyle Cooper's niece, Maria Cooper, reported in 2011 that in 1971 she'd heard her uncle say, "We did it, our money problems are over, we hijacked an airplane." The FBI investigated but ended up ruling out Lynn, who died in 1999, as a suspect. Kenneth Christensen, a military paratrooper who'd worked for Northwest Orient Airlines, was put forward as a potential Cooper suspect by his brother. A year after the hijacking, Christensen was able to purchase a house with cash. He died in 1994. William J. Smith, who died in 2018, served in the military and would have been capable of making a parachute jump. A data analyst who considered Smith a likely suspect found that the bankruptcy of Smith's employer placed his pension in jeopardy, which might have spurred him to strike back at another corporate player. After years of dead-end leads, investigators received a break in 1980 when a boy found a decaying package containing $5,800. It was buried along the Columbia River, north of Portland and some 20 miles, 32 kilometers, from Ariel. The serial numbers of the money, all of which were $20 bills, matched those of the ransom. However, following an extensive search, nothing further was discovered. In 2016, the agency officially closed its investigation, stating that its resources could best be used on other cases. The unsolved mystery fascinated the country, and D.B. Cooper became something of a folk hero, inspiring numerous songs, books, and movies.